Girl Sews, my name's Sarah, thanks for joining me today. Now, the sun has been out and shining for at least 5 minutes consecutively, so I suddenly thought, what a great time to be making a vlog about my favourite size-inclusive summer dress patterns. Now, prior to me being able to sew, so I've been sewing about 3.5 years now, I really hated when it would get hot because I find that a lot of ready-to-wear clothes for plus-size people are not the best. So either I find they're a bit frumpy, or I find that they'll look kind of nice and then there would be one element that just wouldn't work. So it would be really too low in the neckline, or there'd be a big cutout in the back so you couldn't wear a bra, or the skirt would be too short. And it was really incredibly irritating to me. So I used to dread when it would get hotter because I would struggle to find things that were comfortable to wear. And that has been the biggest change since I started making clothes for myself. I have such a lovely summer dress wardrobe now. Like, when I tell you, I can't wait for the summer each year because I have so many lovely dresses in gorgeous prints and fabrics. They have coverage where I want them, but they have freedom and movement where I want them to. And that has been a really big change in attitude for me. So I just wanted to share, which patterns I really felt I'd had the most success with, and things that I think you might enjoy making too. So I've put it down to 5 patterns. They are all patterns that I've made multiple times myself. So there's nothing here where I'm just going on look. And so I'm going to tell you a bit about the pattern generally, and then about my experience of making that pattern. And hopefully there'll be something here to inspire you. I'll make sure that there are links in the description down below. So if there's anything that you want to get, go for it. I'm also not sponsored for any of these. None of them have been gifted to me. They're just patterns I love. So yeah, right. So I'm going to start with the newest pattern to the pack, which is the Cinnamon Daisy Willow Dress. Now, if you've watched any of my more recent Friday Sews vlogs, you'll have seen me talk about this dress before. It's from a pretty new pattern company. It was their first dress pattern. They've also released it in a girl size. So if you like the matchy thing with your little one, then that would be a really cute option. What do I love about this dress? It has lots of nice key features. So it's got a high neckline at the front and then a low scoop at the back. There are 4 different length options. So you can make it as a blouse, as a mini dress, as a knee-length dress, and as a midi dress. It also has different sleeve options. So there's sleeveless, there's a short puff sleeve, there's a flutter sleeve, and then there's an optional add-on for a longer puff sleeve. So lots of options with the sleeves and the skirt length and everything. And then one of the key features that's really nice is the fit. So in order to make it as comfortable as possible and also wearable and flexible throughout the day, it has these really nice waist ties. So at the front of the bodice, at the waist, there are 2 open darts. So the fabric in the middle of the darts is cut out rather than it just being the dart marked on. And you make 4 little ties. You attach 1 each in the side seam and then 1 each in the waist dart. And then it creates this very, very pretty tie-in waist. But obviously you can tie that as tightly or as loosely as you like. So it really is flexible. And there's also at the front of the bodice, there's a little sort of, it goes to like a point in the center, which also, you know, it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit sort of almost costumey, but it's cottagecore and it's relaxed and it's a really lovely feature. Now, I found this dress very easy to sew as well. So I love that when you have a dress that has some fun features, but where they're really easy to construct. And so much thought has gone into making this a really versatile pattern and a fun one to sew up. So I sewed up my first one earlier this year, and I very recently sewed up my second one. I am trying to vary things a bit, so I'm not just sewing up the same dress 500 times in 3 months, but I have other plans for this one as well. Now, it comes in a nice size range. So the smallest size is a bust of 30 inches, a waist of 24, and a hip of 34. And then the largest size is a bust of 59, a waist of 53, and a hip of 63 inches. It's ideal for light to mid-weight wovens. Most of these patterns are suitable for that kind of fabric and that sort of fabric weight. So I have made, as I said, I've made 2 of these so far. My first one I made in a sort of stretch woven fabric. That fabric I was gifted by Minerva as part of the brand ambassador program. I'll pop a picture of that here. I was so thrilled with how this came together. I wear this all the time. I wear it for work, and I mean, you could easily, because it's a dark fabric, it's sort of, yeah, I could wear it on a hot day just with bare legs, or I could wear it with tights and a cardigan on a colder day. So that one's been really versatile. And then I've more recently made one, actually also in a Minerva gifted fabric, in a viscose linen. And this has a much more summery dress feel. So I'll pop a picture here. I wouldn't wear this in, like, viscose linen to me is a very summery fabric. So I would probably only wear this one in the summer. But do you see how this pattern, although it has nice sort of frills and ties that make it summery, if you pick the right fabric, you can really easily make it a dress that goes more through the seasons. Or you can go through on like summer, puff sleeve, florals, you know, the whole shebang. So I very highly rate this pattern. I think the drafting's really good. I think the details on it are really nice. The construction is very pleasing. The way it's all finished on the inside, I think there's just some extra, there's a flat felled seam at the back, centre back, which I think is a really nice, it's sort of an unnecessary detail in terms of a lot of people I think wouldn't have thought to put that in there, but it just gives it such a nice finish. And you've got this lovely bound neckline. If you've watched my videos before, you'll know I hate a facing. I love a bound neckline, and just the finish of the dress is so pleasing and neat, and it comes together really quickly. So I would highly recommend this. Obviously, in terms of fitting, it's really about if you can get a good fit in the shoulders, everything else is sorted out by the ties. So yeah, would highly recommend the Cinnamon Daisy Willow Dress. Now, the next dress is actually has been a firm favourite summer dress of mine since pretty much when I started sewing, which, yeah, so at least 3 years I've been making this dress, and it is the By Hand London Tamzin Dress. Now, this dress, I made loads of versions, like quite different versions early on, because it was the first dress pattern I'd found where it fitted me quite nicely without too much complication. So I made loads of versions. I think I've made 5 overall. It comes in 2 size bands, so 6 to 24 and 16 to 34. And that goes up to a bust of 61¼ inches, a waist of 56¼ and hip of 63¼ inches. Again, this one really utilizes having a more relaxed feel with waist ties, so you can sort of bring the definition yourself. There are a few, again, really nice features to this. So it's a very folky design of dress. It's got a gorgeous square neckline with exposed facing. So that's when, instead of sewing the facing right sides together and then folding it inside, you do it the other way and fold it outside and then stitch it down. This gives you some really fun design options. So if you look on the hashtag on Instagram, you'll see people who have embroidered and put rickrack and all sorts of things on there. So you can add a really nice feature, or you could use like a different fabric, a nice contrast or something like that. So that's really nice. There are 2 options for the waist ties. So there's one that comes into so it's got princess seams on the bodice. So there's one tie which is thicker and it goes into the princess seams at the front and ties around at the back. And then there's another thinner one that can go into the side seams and tie around at the back. So 2 options there. The skirt, there's a single skirt and sleeve length, although you can alter those fairly easily. And they have these really gorgeous, big, chunky pin tucks, which I've made this in a few different fabrics, and on some of them it's really, they're really obvious, and in some of them you can't really see them. But again, it's just a nice feature. Again, it's a pretty easy one to sew. It has a nice big gathered skirt. You can also alter it quite easily. So I'll show you when I show my versions that I have made. I made one for a bridesmaid's dress where instead of putting the tucks in, I just left it full length, elasticated the sleeve, and then I had a nice big billowy sleeve. I've also omitted the tucks in the skirt a couple of times before. And again, you just take some of the length off and then you have a nice gathered skirt. So you can sort of adapt it to your needs. Now, the versions that I've made, so as I said, I've made 5. The first thing I made was actually a blouse out of a cotton lawn, which I'll put here. And I made it sort of like a peplum-y blouse. Now, I wore this quite a lot when I made it, but I don't wear it loads because I don't love the peplum look anymore. But that was, as I said, it was a really early sewing project for me. And it was, I think I made it for Sew Yellow for Endo. And it was one of the first things I made where I was like, oh, this feels like actually quite a good fit after having several projects where I didn't really know what I was doing. So that was the first one. I then made a dress in a sort of viscose challis type fabric, which I really loved, in an almost, I mean, it was not Liberty or William Morris, but that sort of inspired print. And that, again, I wore all the time. I've then made two really summery ones in a gingham. So one with the front waist ties in a red gingham and one with the little back waist ties in a yellow gingham. Again, they're very summery. The viscose one is more, you know, you could wear it all year, actually. And then I also made this for a bridesmaid's dress for my friend's wedding. This is where I made most of the alterations. So I omitted I think I lined the bodice instead of doing the exposed neck facing. I didn't have tucks in the sleeves, so I had a big sort of gathered sleeve instead, billowy sleeve instead. And I didn't put tucks in the skirt just because doing those in satin sounds like a nightmare. So yeah, so I made this dress, a bridesmaid's dress. I was really chuffed with it. Again, I felt lovely in it. And overall, it's just a great pattern. I've actually got another one cut out that I've had cut out since last year and then I haven't made. So hopefully this year I'll get another one on the sewing table. So that's the By Hand London Tamzin. Now next up, there is a Tilly and the Buttons pattern and it is the Mabel Dress. Sorry, the lighting is crazy in here today. The Mabel Dress was released by Tilly and the Buttons last year. It is a fab pattern. It's another one where it's actually really quick to come together. It's got lots of nice features. I think it looks like it'd be more complicated to make than it actually is. And my two most popular makes on Instagram last year were both Mabel dresses. So it's got that mass appeal. It's just a great dress. Now, let me tell you a bit about it. It comes in the full size range for Tilly and the Buttons. So that size is 6 to 34, which goes up to a bust of 60, a waist of 53, and a hip of 61 inches. It has this, like an elastic, it has like a square neckline, which is caused by an elasticated neckline at the front. And then you have the elasticated sleeves as well. So it creates like a square look. At the front, you also have a faux tie and a little keyhole opening. The sleeves, there are two options. So they're both sort of balloon sleeves. You can have a shorter length or a longer length. And they both have shirring at the cuffs. Sorry, I always get told off saying the wrong thing there. Shirring at the cuffs. There's also a shirred elastic panel for the waist. So that brings it in. It's got a sort of billowy, blousey feel, but then the shirring really brings it in. And is that the main thing? Yeah, you can do it in a blouse length or a dress length. Again, with anything that has a sort of gathered flowy skirt, my approach, this would work with, you have to put the shirring. So on the Mabel dress, it looks like the shirring's at the waist, and it is at the waist, but it's actually as part of the skirt piece rather than at the bottom of the bodice. But I, with skirt lengths, because I'm about 5'4", a lot of patterns are drafted for a bit taller than that. I tend to just see how much fabric I have left. I cut all the other pieces out and then I'll look at the fabric I have left and I'll normally make a decision from that as to how long I want the skirt to be. I find that saves me from wasting fabric as well. And cutting out massive pattern pieces is annoying, right? So yeah, so you can really adapt. When I say it's this length skirt or that length skirt, that's an easy thing in most cases to alter yourself to your needs and your height. This is for lightweight wovens as well. Now I have made four of these. The first two were both made using a viscose challis. Works really well in the viscose challis. It's lovely and drapey. I'll put one up here. I did a little colour block daisy one, which was really popular. And then I made one, which I hope I photographed at the time, I can't remember, out of an elephant print. I think it's Lady McElroy fabric, which again is dark colour, so I can just sort of wear it. I would say this is a very summery pattern, so it doesn't transfer so well out of sort of spring, summer season, unless you maybe made it with the longer sleeves. I've not done that yet. I've always made the shorter sleeves. So, but I feel like it feels very summery. And then I made one that was also very popular in viscose linen. This I wore to my friend's wedding. It was the Fabric Godmother Strawberry Fair viscose linen, and I made a little bag to match, and it was all super cute. Yeah, it worked really well in the viscose linen as well. I think anything, I was going to say with a bit of drape, but I've recently made one. I can't share a picture of this one yet because it's for a blog and they haven't shared it yet, but I made one in a cotton lawn. And obviously that has a little bit more structure, a little bit less drape, but it worked beautifully in that as well. So I've made 4 versions of this, and every version, like when the weather's warm enough, I wear them all the time. So would highly recommend. As I said, the most difficult thing here is the shirring. If you've not done that before, it's actually not too difficult, and they have a really clear guide. I'd sewn shirring a few times before, but if you haven't, you know, the Tilly patterns, they're always really good at teaching you what you need to know. The steps are very, very clear. And I definitely found by reading the steps, I found a way to make my shirring more consistent. So I think as long as you've made a couple of things yourself before, you'd be able to make this easy peasy. And again, because of the shirring, the fitting is a bit easier. So that's great. And because they use a lot of elastic around the neckline, things like that, it's really easy for you to adapt it to suit you better rather than having to know how to adjust the pattern, really. Right, 2 more to go. So next up is the dress that I'm wearing and that actually the mannequin is wearing, and that is the Emporia Patterns Penelope dress. Now, I finished sewing this one up yesterday. I've been meaning to make another one for absolutely ages. This, you can't see very clearly, but it's made in a sort of, it's like an embroidered cotton or broderie on glaze. I really wanted a black summer dress. I think sometimes for work, I'll be doing a summer concert and they'll say, oh, we want you to wear black. And I'll be like, oh, everything I have, I don't really wear a lot of black. So everything I have in black is not really appropriate for like a heat wave. So I've decided to make a lovely cotton dress. And then this one that I'm wearing is in a nice viscose linen. Again, that's a Minerva one. Got so much Minerva fabric here. This fabric is from Jenny Stitches. Anyway, this is a great pattern. It's again quite a simple silhouette, but it just works. It's the Penelope. I've only made 2, and these are those 2, but I've got at least 2 more cut out. This is another one that works really well through the seasons. I've got one cut out in needle cord that I haven't made yet. I think also it'd be nice in denim. Like you could easily make versions that are more suited for colder months, or you can make them in these sorts of fabrics, which work really well for when the sun is a-shining. Okay, so this comes in sizes 6 to 30. Bust, it goes up to 54 inches, waist 47, and hip 57 inches. It has a lined bodice with a nice V-neck, high neck at the back. It's got these beautiful, I mean, I'm not showing these off very well, big sleeves. You can see them sort of here. This holds the structure a bit more. And a gathered skirt. You can have pockets in the skirt if you so wish. And have I missed anything out? Oh, on the sleeve they have, it's like with a cuff rather than with elastic, so you can get that same volume. You can see the shape of the sleeve very nicely here actually, but I feel like it's a slightly more elevated finish than the elasticated cuff would be, and it's nice and loose and comfy and flowy. I made a couple of adaptations to this one because there are sort of holes in the broderie. I've added an underskirt, which was simple enough. And yeah, and there's also an optional tier. So with this one, I've initially made it without the tier, but I didn't finish off the top layer, and then I wore it and I've kind of thought, so I'm going to play around. I think I'm going to cut a bit of the length of the normal skirt, and then I will add a tier. Okay, so last up we have the Stylark Belle Dress. Now this is another favourite of mine. I would say of the 5 of these dresses, it is the most involved one to make. Partly because Stylark patterns, the instructions can be a little bit obtuse. So yeah, so it can be a bit trickier to get your head around. But also this one has loads of nice features and it looks tricky. And then it is quite, well, it's not tricky. It's just a bit fiddly in a few places. So let me talk you through it first, and then I will show you my versions and tell you what I thought about it. So it comes in sizes 4 to 36. That goes up to a bust measurement of 67 3/4 inches, waist of 61, and hip of 70 inches and 1/8. It's a button-down dress, so it's not a traditional shirt dress. It doesn't have a collar. It has a low V-neck. Yeah, but it has buttons all the way down to the front. It has a shirred waist. So that's just a little shirred waist panel at the back. So unlike the Mabel, which has that all the way around, it just has a little panel at the back. Again, makes the fitting really nice and easy. This is even better because it has a double yoked waist panel. Is that what you call it? A double front waist yoke. I got myself in the right model there. Double front waist yoke at the front, which gives really nice shaping. But obviously with the shirring at the back, you get that extra comfort. So you get the nice fit, but you don't feel sort of restricted. It has gathers, so there's a back yoke. There are gathers into the back yoke. There are gathers at the sleeve head. There are gathers for the skirt. So there are really nice features all over the place. It has inseam pockets. Oh, and the sleeves. The sleeves are great. So they only have one length of sleeve, but it has an option to have some shirring added around the middle. So you get this like little double puff situation. Very cute. So I love this dress. It's one that I see on a couple of the sewing Facebook groups I'm on. I really regularly see people saying, I want to find a pattern for a dress like this. And the Belle dress is the one that always comes up. So it's obviously a popular style, a popular design. I think it's really flattering on lots of people. Now, there are pros and cons to this pattern. I think it's worth soldiering through. So I've already said the thing that's tricky are the instructions are not great. There are certain things where you do have to sort of, like there's a bit where you do the burrito method and it doesn't really explain how to do that. Yeah, so you'd want to have a little bit of knowledge, I would say. But the drafting is good. Now, I need to make this again to get a better fit. So for me at the moment, the waist yoke doesn't quite fall under my bust, but I think it still looks kind of nice. So I've just gone with it because I think the fit is good. Ideally, I would add a bit of length there and then have the yoke sitting like flush on my waist. But I just need to be bothered to do that first because I kind of like how it looks anyway. It's a really special dress, I think. And I think once you get the hang of it, if you get the hang of the process and the fit, it's like can be a real workhorse. It's just a beautiful dress. Now I've made two. The first one I made was in a crinkle viscose. The fabric was a nightmare. When I tell you it was a nightmare, it was, I mean, I recently used a crinkle viscose for something else. It's awful. I'm never buying it again. But the finished dress was lovely. I got so many compliments. I've worn it to a few places, so I'll pop some pictures of it here. And even though it was such a pain to work with, I just loved the finished result so much. But I knew that I wanted to try it in something more stable. So I made it in a gorgeous broderie on glaze. Can you tell I like broderie on glaze? This was for the Jenny Stitches blog. And I loved it with this because it was so much more stable and easier to work with. The different design features, you could really see them and enjoy them. And I'm really proud of this dress. It's one of the first things I made that was a bit more complicated, but where the finishing was really good. So the inside of the dress actually looks really nice. Most of the stuff I make does not look great on the inside. Whereas with this one, I followed every single step and I was so pleased with how it looked. So I definitely want to make more of these. I might try and make something for my honeymoon maybe. This is also a dress where when I'm saying I'm going to sew something, my husband would go, oh, you know, you look really nice. And you know that one, the white one you wore in France. So he really loves this pattern. I feel really good in this pattern. So yeah, I would recommend, as I said, it's a step above the others. So it's if you want a little bit of a challenge and you don't mind having to decipher instructions that seem indecipherable, then this is the pattern for you. But I think it's worth it, I have to say. Now, looking down that list, I just think, wowzers. I love all of those patterns, I really do. For different things, I love that some of them you can sew up really quickly. I love that some of them are more simple. I love that some of them you can wear throughout the year. I love that some of them are just overtly summer, summer, summer. I love that all of them have a nice size range. And I think all of them are fairly easy to fit. So that's partly I wanted to pick things where you don't have to spend loads of time getting the fit right. Now, you might find in a few of these that you want to do a full bust adjustment. That's quite a common adjustment for me because I find I get a better fit in the shoulders. Like here, I did a full bust adjustment on the Penelope dress and I feel like the fit in the shoulders is pretty good. So that I would say for most of these, if I've either had to make no adjustments or I might have made a full bust adjustment. But yeah, this has got me all excited about all of the summer dresses in my wardrobe. I probably don't need to make any more, to be fair. But that's it for me. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that. Let me know if I've missed any of your other favourite summer dress patterns. Size inclusive only, please. I'd love to know what they are below. Some other patterns that I love that can be summer dress patterns. Tilly and the Buttons Lyra. I love that pattern. I recently made the Deer and Domire Sotis, which the fitting is a little bit tricky on that, but I think with the right tweaks, I think that's like a really lovely one as well. I like By Hand London Lucy dress, which is a draft it yourself dress. I'm sure there are probably loads out there. There'll be loads, but these were just some of my favourites and the ones that I go back to time and time again. So happy sewing. Let me know if there's anything I've missed and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.